Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Um, I'm Stephen Platinum. It's February 8th. Tomorrow is my 50th birthday, and I'm going to be telling three stories about things that have popped up in the last few days that reminded me of these stories for a very special edition of the Platinum Pinfall. And yeah, 50 years old, man. It's something else. But I really enjoy doing this. Let's jump into the stories, shall we? Boop, what is that? That is a picture of Griff Garrison and Marcus Cross, formerly known as Master and Machine on the Indies. Really mentored and helped out by Bill Behrens. And this is a picture of the now signed by AEW Griff Garrison in the ring with Marcus Cross and with Mike Posey, who's another guy that Bill Behrens helps out a lot as the referee. And I just thought it was a great picture, kind of lets us know where we are. It tells us a bunch of things. One, it's really great that Griff Garrison signed. Two, it's really cool that Mike Posey has a steady job as a ref at AEW. And three, it's really cool that Marcus Cross is there doing his thing as well. But most importantly, it tells us that if Bill Behrens believes in you and you put in the work, that Bill Behrens is one of the few guys in wrestling who you can directly say can actually help you a great deal. And we're very fortunate to have him in the Georgia area. And I'm sure Griff and Mike Posey and Marcus feel the same. And I just thought that this was like this picture really just invoked a bunch of those thoughts in me. And I think it's a feel good story, and I think it's really cool. Let's get to this next picture. Poop. Speaking of feel good, Keith Lee and Mia Yim got married, and it's a great story. I would predict that Keith Lee is going to be that person who shows up on Dynamite, and the fact that we can have that discussion is really cool. And is Mia Yim going to be there as well? And if so, does that mean they're going to be this power couple that are going to go up against like Adam Cole and Britt Baker, or Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti? Like when you think about the couple possibilities, because in the WWE, they just did a couples thing, right? With Edge and Beth Phoenix against Maurice and Miz. And I thought it was actually pretty cool for what it was. But then you realize AEW has as many or more couples doing that wrestling thing than anybody, and it's super great. And it got me thinking about couple. By the way, I'm going to put this other picture of the wedding. The fact that Cedric Alexander and Mia Yim keep their feud up, I think is hysterical. I just think it's wonderful. Plus, I think that's a really great picture. I just want to keep it up for a moment. The other couples thing that I'm excited about is the idea of Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green going up against the Kirks. It is no secret that Brandon and Casey Kirk are two of my favorite people in wrestling, period. And I think this idea is really interesting. And it's the one thing that the WWE can do and has done, but can't really do like it should be done. And so it's a great time for AEW or any promotion that's going to have the Kirks against Cardona and Green to take advantage of. Super cool. And then our last story. This show's happening in Orlando, and I'm going to see if I can go. What is that, Steve? It's EC3 and Adam Shear, the once Braun Strowman, and Killer Cross's thing. And it's going to be the wrestling show, but they're saying like, but we control the narrative and blah, blah, blah. It feels very weird. The promos are incredibly strange. And I guess at the end of the day, they're doing what I always want done, which is they're doing something different and weird. So if you look at the information about the Orlando show, and they're also doing one in Texas at the end of March, but this one's March 5th, Control Your Narrative. $25. It's at the Tin Roof in Orlando, and I know exactly where that is because that restaurant is connected to this kind of bigger space. So it's not the biggest venue, but it'll be something different. I'm going to reach out to those guys and see if I can talk to them and do a review of the show. I'm just interested that they're doing this thing. And again, they're going for a really different feel. Is it going to just end up being just a wrestling show? I don't know about that, but I saw that Perro is going to be on it, who's one of my favorites. So really cool stuff happening in wrestling right now. There's a huge vacuum that a bunch of people are finding their spaces and filling in. And I think wrestling fans are all the better for it. In any case, what is our clip going to be? Adam Cole made a return to Maryland Championship Wrestling. And I just thought, like, when wrestlers set goals, and I think their goals are varied and all over the place, don't get me wrong. There's no hive mind. But think about this. I think this is a good goal for wrestlers to have in their mind. Make it enough that your return to promotions that you worked on the indie level have significant meaning. I think that's a great goal to have. In any case, enjoy the Adam Cole clip. I most certainly did. And I will talk to you again tomorrow for my birthday. Wild 50th birthday. Thank you for watching the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. Adam Cole, baby! Hey, hope everybody's doing well. So, a very different kind of Platinum Pinfall. I'm going to tell 3 stories, which were invoked. The idea of these stories were invoked by various stories that I've covered over the last few days. So, we're going to get Disco Inferno. I'm trying to figure out which one to add. Disco Inferno story is going to start. Mr. Anderson and Jasmine St. Clair. I think I'm going to end with Mr. Anderson because it's the most bitter one. All right, the Disco Inferno story. So when I started the school that I myself would run, it was, take you back to the year. So it was 2001, so it was 20 years ago, more than. We opened around 9/11, which was a disaster, right? So I'm going to have my big open house. The students that I had already signed by taking trips to Atlanta from Colorado previously. So I'd signed up a bunch of people. But I was really counting on the Delta Airlines, who had this incentive program for their employees to, if they wanted to train in pro wrestling, Delta would cover it. And I had a bunch of people signed up, but then Delta canceled that. So that was more than 20 grand I was counting on that wasn't happening. But nonetheless, I surged forward and got 2 different wrestling rings, which were shit, but that's another story. And then part of the thing was, you come in on that open house and meet Francine and Disco Inferno. So Disco Inferno was local to the Atlanta area. And my theory, you might be going like, why in the fuck would you hire Disco Inferno? It was twofold. One, WCW just folded. So he was actually kind of prominently featured on WCW. But more than that, he was local. And more than that, he was connected to Vince Russo. He was like one of Vince Russo's guys. And so I was quite sure that Vince Russo was going to get another job in wrestling. And I thought Disco Inferno being around would help that. There were a bunch of reasons. Paid Disco his money, at least the first half of the money. And he came in, and now we were still scrambling to get stuff together. Literally building those rings. They were wooden rings as we were doing stuff. But there were students there. And so trainees, I guess. And so it was like, okay, Disco, do your thing and buy me some time while I do this other stuff. Literally sat in a chair, crossed his legs, opened up a newspaper, and did nothing. It's like you're getting paid a lot of money. All you have to do is talk to the wrestlers and get them excited about the school. And instead, when he would say stuff, it would be stuff like, oh man, there's a lot of wrestling schools around, It's like, I'm paying you, motherfucker. Talk to these motherfuckers. I shouldn't have to tell him what to do. It's just like, you're here to fucking generate excitement, interest, and he didn't do any of that shit. So I didn't fucking have him back, and then he was mad because it's like, give me the other half of the money, and it was just like, fuck you. Like, literally all you had to do was just talk to people and be cool, but he couldn't be bothered. I will never forget the fucking opening of the newspaper and reading. Francine, unfortunately, who was supposed to be there for the benefit of the women, of course, couldn't make it because 9/11 flights and all that stuff was canceled. So that one I totally understood. The disco fucking inferno. Okay, Jasmine St. Clair. So those that don't know, Jasmine St. Clair was a porn star whose most notable thing was at one point she did the world's biggest gangbang where more than 300 guys had sex with her one after another. And she was dating the Blue Meanie. And so one of my last forays in the indies was a mixed tag match with my tag team partner, who was a woman of who got one of the last great developmental deals with OVW, actually. So we were a team, and I would always just get beat up and be the mouthpiece, and then she would shine, which made sense. Like, she was the one who was trying to get signed and did end up getting signed. But we're going to take on Jasmine St. Clair and the Blue Meanie. Now, Jasmine St. Clair, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go out there and generate heat, of course. And I don't even remember what state this was in. This was on the East Coast. I was Colorado-based and did a lot of stuff in the Southwest, but I would make forays everywhere. I've been to all 50 states. And so we're somewhere probably close to Philadelphia or whatever, Blue Meanie land. And I was like, okay, what? I was courteous enough to, like, what am I allowed to say? And they go like, oh, dude, you're building up the main. Like, say whatever you want. Why you would ever tell me that, I have no idea. But they told me, say whatever you want. So I went out there, introduced my tag partner, and, she's a stunner. She's fucking great looking. So crowd was already like, oh my God, we're going to get to see this chick and Jasmine St. Clair. It's going to be nuts. I come out there and I have like a number, like 200 whatever, like a sign around my neck. And so some people in the audience kind of knew where I was going, but some were just like, what? And I'm like, this is my Nikita, she's so great. And then I talk about myself and I go, see, Jasmine and St. Clair and I already knew each other. So because she'd done the world's largest gangbang, and I was just like, we had met each other. And then I tell this ridiculous story of how Jasmine St. Clair is like the worst lay I ever had, etc., etc., etc. So the crowd is like going nuts. They're just like, oh my God, this guy's fucking crazy and blah, 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 blah. And the thing was, I would say all this horrible stuff, but I would always give it back to you in the ring. But apparently Jasmine St. Clair was legitimately angry. So in a going to business for herself moment, at one point when it made no sense in the context of what was happening in the match, she like slipped into the ring and then just like fucking from behind just kicked between my legs and got fucking kicked, hit fucking taint, dick, balls, just fucking kicked me as fucking hard as she could when it made no sense in the context of the match. Because she was mad about what I had said. But to her credit, my fucking tag partner got in there and fucking beat the living fuck out of Jasmine St. Clair, which was fucking awesome. I was fucking hurting. Meanie was embarrassed. Like afterwards, he was like, "I'm fucking sorry, dude." Like, it's like, it is what it is. And as a weird side note, Jasmine St. Clair was nothing but a cunt backstage. She was so fucking hard to deal with. Even before I had cut that promo, she was just like fucking aloof and she sucked. Meanie was fucking nice as shit. I think I remember that he gave me extra money. But she had kicked me in the fucking dick so fucking hard that it actually like fucking turned colors and shit. And I just remember going like, God. if I have to get fucking surgery or some shit. It wasn't that serious, but yeah. Fucking Jasmine St. Clair. And my fucking sign with a number on around my neck. Now, Mr. Anderson, also near the end of my career, he was kind of making his way in the business. And one of my things was my introduction as lethal litigator that I would do myself. Now, other guys did their own introductions, but nobody did it quite like me, and it wasn't a widespread thing yet. So my introduction would invariably go like this, some variation of this. So I would go, from a much better neighborhood than the one you lived in, weighing significantly less than. If there was somebody I could make fun of weight-wise, I would. Otherwise, I would just say most of the women here, whatever. So, from a much better town than the one you live in, weighing significantly less than your mother. Put your unwashed hands together for the most dangerous lawyer in the country. And then here's the part that's interesting. The lethal! And I'd hold that bitch as long as I could. Litigator! Litigator. If that sounds familiar to wrestling fans, it's because Mr. Anderson, or Mr. Kennedy, as he was in the WWF/E, would go, Kennedy! Kennedy. And he was there for one of my intros and fucking marked out huge. He was just like, that's so fucking great. And da 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 da. Am I saying he stole it from me? Not necessarily. Ideas pop up in your head for all kinds of reasons. And I've never heard the story of how he said, because I'm sure he's been asked in interviews, like, oh, how did you come up with that fucking intro? It's so awesome. I'm just saying. Whatever the fuck, I did it first, and he heard me do it. In any case, it's my 50th birthday. I'm about to get to bed here, as you can see. Thanks for being patrons. I really fucking appreciate it. One of my big goals is to hit 30 patrons, and we're so damn close. But for those of you who are already patrons and support me and watch this stuff, I really appreciate it. Something tells me this is going to be a pretty great fucking year. Hopefully I don't get kicked in the balls. Hopefully somebody doesn't steal my shit. And hopefully somebody doesn't waste my money and read a paper in front of my face. This is my life. Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Cleaned up some of my laundry, but not all of it. Man, oh man. Let's just jump into the stories today. I want to get this up and then I want to go to bed because I'm going to get up early. Do it all over again. Our first story. What? PCW, 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 PC. Why am I so loud? PCW is having its homecoming show. One, Matt Hankins is a genius. 2, I imagine it's going to do very, very well. We're going to have the Danger City Demons, who have not been together for a very long time. We're going to have Vandal. Look at the pictures that are here. Supernatural. Weapon of Ass Destruction, formerly known as Aisha Sunshine. Shane Marks. Dude, this homecoming is going to be fan-frickin-tastic. PCW had a great 2021, and it looks like they're going to have an even greater 2022. It's this Friday. Make it happen, Cap'n. It's such a great idea. I wish I could take credit for it. And look how slick the thing looks. Super great. Super proud. Super wonderful. Say super again. Super. But not super as Brandy Rhodes hopes to evolve and win championship gold in AEW. Now, I will say that I love the segments that she's doing with Dan Lambert. I like the build-up to the thing with her and whoever that chick fighter is with Dan Lambert's group. I think that that's wonderful. Do I want to see Brandy Rhodes in the women's division? Legitimately, no. The best thing that happened to the AEW women's division was Brandy Rhodes getting pregnant. I've said that before and I will say it again. It opened up the division. It made it less about her. It freed up the bunny. They never repeated that weird tag team women's tournament thing that ended with medals being given that would sometimes be on Dark and then sometimes be. Brandy is fine for what she does, which is very little. But this idea that she's just going to wrestle and it's going to be great, it's for the first time we had two different women's matches on Dynamite in a very long time. And that's the kind of thing we want to see continue. And I just feel like Brandy Rhodes. Now, if this is trolling to get people to hate her more, with this idea of, oh no, she's going to like maneuver her way into a title shot she won't deserve. It's bad enough she has as many wins as she has. Watching her beat Kylan King on Dark, not because Kylan King didn't carry the match, she did, but it's just watching her have to tap out to the stretch mark, which is the name of Brandy Rhodes' finisher. It is the one place where if AEW continues to follow through with Brandy Rhodes being a prominent part of the women's division, it is a huge mistake with zero upside. And then finally, this is a wrestling school here in Florida. People often ask me, where should I go to get trained? If you're in Florida, I don't know if there's a better place than here. Let's talk about it. It's Jay Lethal's school. David Mercury is somebody who, whenever I see him, I am so impressed by him, and he understands wrestling so well. Big Khan, formerly of the Ascension, and Sumi Sakai. So you have such a great variety of teachers. The people that I know who have been trained there and come out of there, it is really great, the wrestling lab. And they're having an open house, meaning it's a good time to sort of check it out and see what you're interested in. Talk to them. February 20th, the Sunday. You learn the fundamentals. Like I said, anybody who has been trained at what was called the Lethal School, whenever I would hear wrestlers, they were all frickin' dynamite. And I know David Mercury, who probably takes on the lion's share of a lot of this stuff, is really, really perfect at doing it. But you got Sumi Sakai there, Big Khan, Jay Lethal. I really don't see it as... It's a can't miss, and you owe it to yourself to go there if you're in the Florida area. It's kind of near Tampa from what I understand. In any case, what's our video clip? Dude, that Beal throw that Keith Lee did in his AEW debut is bananas. Is bananas. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not. It's the 10th, the day after my 50th birthday. So I'm feeling it. It's great. And tomorrow night I'm going to have a nice celebration, nice get together with friends and my kids. We're going to go sing karaoke together. Anyway, thank you for joining us for the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. So first, look at this. What is that? That is a cool picture. Absolutely love it. February is Black History Month, and that used to feel like a very cursory thing or something that was said out of obligation. But now I think very much when you look at who's on this picture, not only is it just a cool visual, I think it's really great that representation in the pro wrestling business is something that used to be, it was literally tokenism, right? It's like, oh, you can only have one black guy on your roster or two or three, and they have to feud with each other. And I think we're in a better spot. Should it continue to get better? It better. That's the whole point, right? Once you get adequate representation, you want better than adequate representation. And I just found this to be really cool. Really not a whole lot to say beyond that. Just, it's wonderful. And it's great. Cool. Let's put up... Not wonderful, not great, is Eric Bischoff's opinion of old Dave Meltzer. Quoted here saying, "You want so badly to be recognized as someone who's really important to the industry," wrong form of who's, when in fact you're nothing but a fucking parasite who made $500,000 a year writing about shit you know nothing about and reporting stuff that half the time isn't true anyway. Eric Bischoff to Dave Meltzer in 83 weeks. Two things. He makes $500,000 a year. Can that be right? Good for Dave. Uh, Again, it's very popular to bash Dave. I will say this. There was a time where Dave's voice was absolutely necessary and one of the few checks and balances that existed in pro wrestling. When Bret Hart got screwed in the Montreal screw job, who did he go to first to make sure the story got out there prominently? It was Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer has chronicled wrestling's history. His obituaries are amongst the biggest must-read stuff happening in the wrestling business. Um, and I will say all of that. Eric Bischoff obviously is angry and bitter and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, Dave will still be doing his thing. People will take him. I don't think he's regarded as highly, but he's still an opinion that matters to the point where people still discuss him, as I am doing now. And I'll just leave it there. People who write me or comment, let me know what you think about Dave Meltzer versus Eric Bischoff. It's something I have a feeling we're going to come back to at some point. And then finally, bloop, here's a tweet by the Iron Sheik, right? People love the Iron Sheik tweets. Which game better, GTA 6 or I break that Hollywood blonde jabroni Hulk Hogan's neck 3? Why is this a story? Because I was in a conversation recently where somebody was talking about, man, I can't believe Sheik doesn't get more love for these things because it's the coolest, funniest. Because we were talking about guys who have sort of maintained a cool status in the wrestling business or captured it again as they've gotten older. And they're like, oh yeah, the Iron Sheik, it's so cool. And I'm like, oh yeah, that the whole thing that the guys run for him it's a really cool thing how they've gone around his brand and made him a thing. And they were like, what are you talking about? They didn't realize that the Iron Sheik doesn't put these tweets up, that it's somebody who basically does it for him under the guise of this character, which is, again, is this not evident when he's talking about GTA 6? You think Iron Sheik knows what Grand Theft Auto is? Like, it just goes to show that while kayfabe may not exist per se, people can still be fooled. Try not to be one of them. But something that is most definitely not fooling around is this gentleman. This is a guy playing dodgeball. What does this have to do with pro wrestling? Look at the nature of how these clips were put together and the little bit of production that they added to some of them. And think about how much you would love to see a wrestling clip series that did something similar. In any case, this has been the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. Enjoy the dodgeball to the face. And if you're of a certain age, enjoy the bad memories that you had of playing dodgeball. Do you have to play dodgeball? Veronica?
I have to play dodgeball.
It's not a thing anymore?
We don't. Well, I mean, we don't have to, but I mean, if we don't, we just kind of sit around and feel sad and contemplate whether Tails secretly aliens. Anyway.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I got this dance down. 1, 2, 3. I can even switch it up. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall for Saturday, February 12th. Of course, my Patreon people get to see this stuff first. Um, that's Leo. If you see Leo pop up in the background looking awesome. Oh, look, getting shy. Are you kidding me right now? With my Thumb Wrestling Champion shirt on. But you know what? I have to be honest about something here. When Leo has clothes that I used to wear, Leo looks better in them. And I imagine when Veronica starts swiping my clothes as well, Veronica will look better in them. So I'm not even mad about it because how could I be mad? I'm just glad I have good looking kids instead of goofy looking.
You can't be mad at the drip, bro. You gotta respect the grind.
You can't be mad at the drip and you have to respect the grind. As Veronica always says. Constantly talking about the drip. In any case, three quick stories about wrestling. Let's go ahead and get to it. Bop! Ooh, I guess I'll put it on. You know what? No, I'm going to move it from this side and then put it on this side. Bop! I like it better over there. Becky Lynch recently posted a thing that I think warrants discussion, and it is a newsworthy item. So they're having their next premium live event in Saudi Arabia, which has been controversial when the WWE first started doing stuff there. They weren't allowed to have women on the card, and they have slowly moved it where, as Becky Lynch says here, the first time women have been featured on a WWE billboard in Riyadh. What an honor. Welcome to the big time. And she's not wrong. Of course, they're covered up. And all of that stuff as much as possible, and we can talk about and debate all we want, but at the end of the day, she's absolutely right. They're using the WWE as a way to slowly have different kinds of representation in that country, and that is a net positive, no matter what people want to say about it. If you disagree or if you agree, feel free to comment or contact me, as people often do. But I think that is an important and newsworthy story that warrants more discussion than I've seen. All right, next one. Nick Gage. I've talked many times about how GCW are just weird. And how they do things that seem counterproductive. And this one is GCW has signed Nick Gage to a contract. I know this idea of signing people to a contract is an attempt to make them seem more big time, but instead it just makes them look like a kid wearing their father's clothes. But in this case, unlike my kids wearing my clothes, GCW doesn't look better in them than real promotions. In fact, it sort of points out the fact that they're kind of ridiculous. To sign Nick Gage, a guy that I don't think any major promotion was going to put under any kind of contract, feels symbolic at best, which again alludes to the fact that it's not a real thing, which why you would point that out is beyond me. But this is what GCW tends to do about things, right? Is they make the Bush League moves that will always prevent their growth. And hopefully not their continued success, but that's how the pattern usually goes. And this last story, Hikaru Shida, I am struggling to survive in the current AEW. The former women's world champion outlines the struggle facing Joshi wrestlers in AEW. I love that Shida's so honest. I think she's absolutely right. And I think the reason for this is because the quality of the wrestling has gone up. And I love that Sheeta's so honest about going, man, I have a hard time keeping up. Because she is one of the people most responsible for the improvement in the division and how it is booked and how it is run. And I think she gets a lot of credit for that. And she has stepped up her game, her appearance, everything about herself. And I love that she's just so honest about it. You usually don't see this kind of thing. And I think it's actually a good sign that AEW is improving and will continue to improve. And, I do love some of the Joshi. I would love, I love Maka Ito and stuff like that. But there is this push towards gotta be better. Bars gotta get higher. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think a lot of people are going to find, men and women are going to find contracts running out in AEW. Um, and that's an inevitable consequence of their continued improvement. But I just love that Sheeta's so honest. I think Sheeta is one of the people that doesn't get the credit that she deserves. So I love pointing it out. And something else that I love pointing out brings us to our video today. So there was a time where I remember not that long ago where it's like the first women were dunking and they were always really tall and, um, and now this is a picture of a high schooler or a video of a high schooler on a breakaway dunking. And I had a conversation with my kids today talking about how proud I am of them and how they're going to be part of advancement as well. I think they're going to be credits to trans people everywhere. I think they're going to be credit to women everywhere. Um, and that we're living in a really wonderful time. I mean, I talked about the Black History thing yesterday, and this has been a very female centric edition of the Platinum Pinfall, and big things are going to continue to come and evolve, and you have a choice as a wrestling person, a wrestling fan, or whatever. You can get with these changes and understand that they're good, but that there's going to be kind of aches and pains and growing pains in this whole thing. Or you can be one of these people that just bemoans and crosses your arms about everything. Um, you can tell which side I'm on, and I hope you'll join me. In any case, enjoy the clip. And this has been the Platinum Pinfall.
Right.
1, 2, 3. I wanted smart, funny kids. And I got them. Listen to the dad at the end of this clip, by the way. It's the best part.
Hold up, Jalen! Oh, shit!
Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Platinum Pinfall, 3 quick stories about pro wrestling. I just put up the compilation for February 1st through February 7th. Today is the 13th, day before Valentine's Day. So it lets you know, yes, you can see these eventually. It's about on a week lag, or you can just get them right away if you join my Patreon. We have levels as low as $1. That gets you in so you can see the Platinum Pinfalls at the very least. So let's just jump into this, man. So there, that's where I want to put it. That's Roxy, former Ring of Honor Women's Champion, 19 years old, baby, but has just gotten signed by World Wrestling Entertainment. So you're going to see Roxy hopefully soon on NXT. And again, I think it's another indication that there is room for wrestling people. That this whole idea of, well, we're not looking for indie talent, blah, 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 bogus. What you want is great stuff. Now, WWE is going to tend to look younger because their theory is, we want people who are going to get to make us money for a long, 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 long time. And whatever you think of that process or whatever their criteria are, the simple fact is a number of people have gotten signed. And she was Ring of Honor Women's Champion. That's about as wrestling as it gets. So good for Roxy, and a good indication that if you're a young person getting into wrestling, that WWE is still a viable goal. Plus, things are going to change. Standards always do. They've done it before, and they'll do it again. Speaking of WWE, this guy who had a very tumultuous relationship with the World Wrestling Entertainment when he was Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, he's the NWA World Champion, and I called this thing. And a lot of people might get mad about it, but it's the same reason GCW was smart to put the belt on this guy, that Impact was smart to have him beat Jordan Grace for their social media championship or whatever. He's a hot hand. And one thing that is as true in wrestling now as it has ever been is you ride the hot hand. And Matt Cardona is the hottest hand of all right now. He's about as big as you get, who's not signed to AEW or WWE. And he should be very proud of his accomplishments. And I think he's super cool. And I hope him and Chelsea Green engage with Brandon and Casey Kirk. That is a matchup I will not miss whenever it happens. And there's very few things in wrestling that I actually say that about, that I absolutely would not miss it. I would not miss Brandon and Casey Kirk against Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona. Would not, could not, should not. And that goes for you as well. Congratulations to Matt Cardona and the NWA for putting the title on somebody that might actually get them some fucking attention for once. And then finally, there's no picture there because they're going to be part of the video clip, is Charlotte Flair. We got to talk about what's going on with Charlotte, man. This attitude, this sort of weird social media posts. This isn't directly her fault, but the weird way that Ric Flair, her father, and Becky Lynch are engaging each other on Twitter, where I think nobody's coming out ahead. And now, in the video clip, this shit-tastic sell that she does. Now, I'm not going to say that she sabotaged it. I'm just going to say that she doesn't seem to have a vested interest in putting her opponents over. Even the way she structures her matches with people, even when maybe at the end she loses, though not often. But even in those matches, the person is never elevated by the victory. And they're certainly not elevated when they lose to her, because she structures the match for them to look bad the whole time. And she's better than that. There's a time where I would have said she was the best woman wrestler going. And now I wouldn't put her in the top 5. And it has entirely everything to do with structure and attitude and making mistakes like this. In any case, this has been the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. Enjoy the clip. Welcome to the Platinum Pinfall 1, 2, 3. Platinum Pinfall. 3 stories about wrestling. It's Valentine's Day. So we're going to jump into these stories. They all got something to do about love. Love. First one. Boop. Oh my goodness. Baby Richie Swan Jr. Congratulations to Sue Young and Richard Swan, both of whom not only are friends of mine, but I booked with frequency at PCW. Really great. They're here in Orlando. Would love to see that kid in person. Kid's going to be a winner, boy. It's lovely. Richard Swan, of course, continues to wrestle for Impact Wrestling. I would imagine Sue Young, after a time, may go back there as well. But, boy, they're having a kid. Super exciting time. Super lovely. A wrestling couple that's staying together. It's lovely and it's wonderful. Next story. Boop. What is that? What is that? It's Mucha Lucha. That's Ricardo Ordaz Jr., one of the top 3 finishers for Promoter of the Year for the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. First row for his next show, sold out. That's an $80 price tag. Second row, 75% sold out, $80 price tag. VIP on the stage, $80 sold out. Now, they used to charge, I believe, $190 maybe, but they've more than made up for that because their general admission is now $60 instead of $50. And this is a group that, again, draws more than 1,000 every single show. $25 for kids. Dude, someone's going to have to convince me that Ricardo is not Promoter of the Year. I mean, that's absolutely bananas, bonkers stuff there. They should be really proud. I'm sure they're really proud. Really awesome. And then finally, boop, this one that doesn't appear to be about wrestling, but it's about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and it's lovely. And you can apply this mentality to wrestling. Right? There's old Stephen King looking scary as shit. When books are run out of school classrooms and libraries, I'm never much disturbed, not as a citizen, not as a writer, not even as a school teacher, which I used to be. What I tell kids is don't get mad, get even. Don't spend time waving signs or carrying petitions around the neighborhood. Instead, run, don't walk to the nearest non school library or the local bookstore and get whatever it is they banned. Read whatever they're trying to keep out of your hands. Couldn't agree more. And for people that get really weird about wrestling stuff, I mean, at the end of the day, and this is important to note, there was a time where watching pro wrestling was considered like a terrible thing to do, and parents would ban it from their kids and that kind of thing. I and didn't seem to stop it very much. But I think that this thing about the book banning is another reminder that there's always people who are going to try to restrict what you have access to, because ultimately what they're scared of is the notion of ideas taking hold, um, that run counter to how they think. And I can kind of see that in pro wrestling to a lesser extent, right? People who are of the belief that there's one way to do wrestling and it's the right way. I used to hear this all the time. Uh, People shouldn't watch the other thing or whatever. I'm here to remind you that whenever somebody has the mentality of banning something or people shouldn't have access to this thing or there's only one right way to think, they're usually completely full of shit. And because it is Valentine's Day, I want to end with something absolutely lovely. The lovely Sasha Banks. This has been the Platinum Pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Do the splits. I'm doing the splits right now, just like Sasha. God damn! She's good looking.